Good morning, I'm Wendy Burke, and this is the CBC Morning Report for Wednesday, September 7th. In our top story, homemade lithium batteries, off-grid solar systems for homes and vehicles, energy-saving solutions for construction companies to mobile food trucks are what one local business is offering to help cut costs. Julian Clark, the owner of On Solar, builds and designs the batteries and systems which he said can power almost anything inside the home or even the electric vehicle. He wants to move the mobile sales force to another level, saving them gas and electricity used in cooking or storage through the use of specially designed batteries and panels. He believes the issue, which many have been unable to store the power generated from the panels, will be easily solved with this system. Actual utility bills were also used to show savings can be brought about. And we are now joining us to talk about how these major savings can come about and how it will decrease the carbon footprint is Mr. Julian Clark. Good morning to you, Julian.
Hi, good morning, Andy.
Now, we're talking about lithium batteries and the actual construction of batteries. How was that something you got into? What propelled the idea?
Okay, the idea came about looking at the cost, knowing my primary skill set involved cost containment. It's called cost containment management, where companies look for ways to save money regarding their human resources, security, and other aspects. However, the energy aspect drew my attention nearly 5 years ago, when I was looking at every aspect, even water to electricity, but I focused my energy on lithium technology. That's where it began.
Okay, now in terms of the system and being off the grid, who are some of the companies that this would be a best fit for, or householders?
Yeah, actually it goes both ways, both householders, and it's very scalable from a small business, medium, and even large scale. New thing on large scale for manufacturing, for example, hotels, you're taking about 400 volts and above. You take the small scale from the home domestic, you're looking at 120 or 220 volts. So yes, it fits both the small, the medium, and the large scale operation, both for homes and commercial enterprises.
Now, on average, what would the saving with the use of this kind of technology bring about? Like, say, per annum, how much money would be kept in the pockets of individuals so they don't have to spend it on electricity?
The system actually is built on three main components. You have the solar panels, which captures the real-time energy. Then you have your inverter, then you have our lithium batteries from On Solar. That technology, actually based on the size of the battery, determines your output. When you say your output, you can equal your light bill or excess, which means that your battery storage determines the 100% savings. So if you want to start small, you can start 50% savings or 75% savings, or you can go all in for 100%. So yes, it can actually complement your entire bill.
Okay, and finally now, you spoke about the issue of helping to revolutionize the food industry in terms of them not having to use the gas bottles on the machines, etc. How can you bring that about? What would you do to a food truck to make it energy efficient?
Okay, On Solar actually is into the innovation, customization. This means we can take that battery system. Let's take a van, for example, a sales van on the road, moving back and forth. You can install a solar panel on that van with the lithium technology. And with that, obviously, applying the electrical component, which could power your refrigerator, even your AC, the computer systems, even lighting. So whether it be for short term or less, we can actually incorporate the whole technology within the mobile sales force, powering every aspect of that vehicle. For food as well, for the stove, for kitchen, for those in the food business, yes, we do have the technology to actually complement those demands.
Okay, just give me a little bit more details of how you can help the van. Would it be like, say, maybe ensuring that water is forever heated? You know, exactly what aspect of the food truck?
Okay, every aspect, now let's go more clearly. You know, you have the EV vehicles, which are obviously powered by battery, but let's put that one aside. Let's deal with the traditional vehicles. So in the food vehicle, our system can support water tanks. It's a miniature water tank for those who are serving hot beverages in that case. Then you have your oven, you have your microwave. I mean, for those in the food business, that is, even the ice cream coolers as well. So yes, every aspect, the lights, the microwave, the ovens, the electronic component, all that contained within one vehicle. The panels is on a van, the batteries are inside the respective vehicle, and all energy is generated free for the duration of that business. Day or night time. Mind you, day or night.
Okay. Well, it's very interesting technology, and we're looking forward to hearing more developments in this area. Thank you so much, Mr. Julian Clark of OnSolar, telling us all about his lithium batteries and off-grid systems. Do have a good morning. Coming up on the CBC Morning Report, updates on the pandemic and the war in Ukraine. 114 new COVID-19 cases were recorded on Monday from the 582 tests conducted by laboratories across the island. The cases comprised 9 people under the age of 18 and 105 who are 18 years and older. The number of people in isolation facilities was 53, while 722 were in home isolation. Under the national vaccination program for COVID-19, the total number of fully vaccinated people is 154,444. Over 7,000 children in Guyana ages 5 to 11 have taken their first dose of the COVID-19 vaccine. This update from Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, reminding Guyanese vaccination is the most recommended precaution to avoid becoming infected.
For the 5 to 11 age group, it's about 7.8%, first dose is 7.8% of that age cohort, which means that we have administered 7,964 doses of vaccines. The second dose, we're about 3.3% of that age cohort. So that means we have administered about 3,406 doses of the vaccine. For the 12 to 17 age group, we did 35,636 doses, or 48.9% of that age cohort. And for second dose, it's 26,132 doses, or approximately 35.8% of that age cohort.
With the wearing of masks now mostly optional and mass crowd and physical distancing mandates removed, St. Lucia's government is warning against complacency. They've been reminded the threat of COVID-19 is still there.
Prime Minister Philip J. Pierre said that the decision was guided by the health experts. He was questioned by journalists ahead of the weekly cabinet meeting on Monday.
Straight from the medical people. We take our advice on protocols from medical people. You know, I don't have my mask this morning. Taking my advice, they say that we don't have to wear masks in public places, but inside, in offices and in business spaces, it's not mandatory, but it depends on what the owner wants.
And while society is eager to get back to business, Pierre is reminding people that the COVID-19 threat is still very much alive.
We hope that St Lucia still continue wearing masks when they are in certain areas. You must wear it at hospitals and in institutions, but I hope St Lucians continue to follow the protocols because COVID is not over.
What does the easing up of mask wearing and other protocols mean for the tourism sector?
Some tourists were complaining about the two-tier system of entry, but I think that is going to be handled very shortly. I think in the new protocols we deal with that.
As of Monday, September 5th, 2022, the testing and vaccination requirements for entry into St Lucia is removed. Travelers will still be required to fill out the health screening form for arrival into the country.
The International Atomic Energy Agency has called for the establishment of a security zone around Ukraine's Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, occupied by Russia and the site of recent shelling.
The IAEA is calling for an immediate security zone to be set up around the nuclear power station, Europe's largest. The report also recommends that conditions be improved for Ukrainian staff operating the plant. Experts say work is needed to repair damage to buildings that house nuclear fuel and radioactive waste. The plant in the southern Ukrainian city of Enerhoda usually generates around half of the country's nuclear power, but attacks heighten the risk of damage to its electricity grid. Under the worst-case scenario, explosions could destroy the plant's so-called reactor containment structure, and that would allow high radiation levels to escape into the atmosphere, making nearby areas dangerous to live in for decades.
I remain gravely concerned about the situation in and around the Zaporizhzhia plant, including reports of recent shelling. Let's tell it like it is. Any damage, whether intentional or not, to Europe's largest nuclear power plant in Zaporizhzhia or to any other nuclear facility in Ukraine could spell catastrophe, not only for the immediate vicinity, but for the region and beyond.
The physical attack, wittingly or unwittingly, the hits that this facility has received and that I could personally see and assess together with my experts is simply unacceptable. We are playing with fire.
Our diplomatic editor, James Bays, has more on the proposal for a demilitarised zone around the power plant.
Well, we don't have a great deal of detail of how that would work. It sounds like it is just the plant itself, the perimeter of the plant, that would be the demilitarised zone. Currently, inside that zone, there is Russian military equipment, Russian military vehicles. He wants all of them moved out. He wants an undertaking by the Ukrainians that they won't move anything in to that demilitarised zone. He said it was a simple but could be very effective protective mechanism that could be put in place if, of course, the two parties agree to it. And he said the current situation can't really continue. He's described the violation of the physical integrity of what is Europe's biggest nuclear power plant. He said this has happened and it continues to happen. He said that it was unacceptable and they were playing with fire.
It's time now to preview what's coming up on Morning Barbados. So we say good morning to Pearson Boone.
Good morning, Wendy. Good morning, everyone. When you join me at 6:30 this morning, hey, have you heard of the Brothers Johnson? It's a musical group, I'm sure, but this morning you'll hear about the brothers Charles, and they've come together, how creative they are truly. And so how do you manage when you bring three brothers together to do business? Also today, the question is self-care selfish? I know that's a question that some of you would probably think absolutely not. Well, there's an answer for that question when we're joined by some members of the PCOS committee. They'll be talking about their month of activities. And inflation, that word has been in the news a lot recently. What is Sagicor doing to help its members manage inflation? We'll share those and a whole lot more when you join me at 6:30 for today's edition of Morning Barbados, Wendy.
Thank you so much, Pearson. Looking forward to this morning's show. More news on the CBC Morning Report after the break. The Barbados Union of Teachers is worried about the escalating violence in Barbados as children prepare to return to the classroom. President Rudy Lovell told Morning Report that it is extremely concerning because many schools have no security.
We note that some primary schools are without security guards, and students and teachers at these schools are exposed to various uncertainties. There have been instances reported by members and even on record in the media of violent crimes perpetrated in close proximity to schools. It is against this backdrop that we urge those in authority to be proactive and not wait until something happens to respond to this issue.
While indicating that they will be returning to the classroom despite some concerns, Mr. Lovell also asked for a better turnaround of time in notifying teachers that they have been transferred to another school.
The Barbados Union of Teachers is concerned about the annual practice of teachers being transferred with as little as 1 week's notice, which in many instances does not allow them time to make adequate family arrangements, especially for their children, many of whom end up being disadvantaged due to the relocation. Once again, the BUT calls for the stipulated notice of 6 weeks to be given to facilitate a smooth relocation for all teachers. At a recently held meeting, the BUT membership indicated they are ready to return to the classroom, amidst a few concerns regarding the proposed structure outlined by the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training.
Barbados is one of 2 Caribbean countries benefiting from a multi-million-dollar coding project. Code Caribbean, which was officially launched yesterday, will be rolled out at the first form level in select secondary schools from the upcoming academic year. Speaking during the virtual launch, Education Minister Kay McConney said the initiative comes at a time when the ministry is seeking to transition the system into one that's more geared to equipping citizens to successfully compete in a modern world.
Whether it's our cell phones or calculators or washing machines or televisions, just to name a few, they require code to function effectively. And an early introduction to code, as Barbados piloted last year within our nursery, primary, secondary, and special schools. We intend to ensure that our children are appropriately exposed at an early age. And as they develop a better understanding of their world, it opens their minds to the perceived opportunities where they can learn and contribute to homegrown solutions using programming and the skills that come with coding.
Barbados and Belize were chosen from among 7 countries in the region. It's a joint partnership between the Ministries of Education and the Inter-American Development Bank with support from the Trust for the Americas, Code.org and Porticus Foundation. Division Chief of the IDB's Education Division, Mercedes Vatio-Baganza, says the project aims to bridge the skills gap in science, technology, engineering and maths, STEM, which currently exists in the region. She notes only a minority sit for STEM subjects.
Enrollment in science at the secondary level is low. Current enrollment rates range between 2 to 7% compared to an average of 10% in OECD countries and of 13 to 18% in strong research and innovation economies such as Germany, France, Ireland, the United Kingdom, and China. The low participation in STEM subjects then translates into challenges of the region to fully leverage technology for the socioeconomic and sustainable development strategies. In addition, low investments in research and development combined with little collaboration between the private sector and the universities have caused a dearth in STEM skills for innovation.
Just over 400 children have benefited from the Eden Lodge Youth Charitable Trust's Back to School drive for this year. Public Relations Officer Billy June Langdon made the disclosure at ABETS yesterday, where they, in conjunction with sponsors, presented back to school supplies to several parents and children.
This year we saw over 400 and odd families that we had to assist in just our back to school program alone. And mind you, we do have other projects and programs ongoing as well, but it was over 400 and odd families that we assisted this time around. We gave textbooks, we paid petty fees, socks, shoes. We're here this morning at ABEDS. This is just one of our presentations.
The Caribbean Broadcasting Corporation, ABEDS, and the Sandy Lane Charitable Trust are just some of the sponsors on board for the venture. CBC's marketing specialist, Alicia Hinton, says the CBC is pleased to be on board.
Today, we are here to give back in their back to school drive, and CBC is happy to be a part of that initiative. And we encourage you to really follow the trust, see the work that the trust is doing. And we ask Corporate Barbados to make sure that you all donate because people need that help. And we're just thankful and appreciative that we can be part of this initiative, and we take the opportunity to thank the Eden Lodge Charitable Trust.
Member of Parliament for St James North, Edmund Hinkson, is dismissing false information circulating on social media that he plans to bow out of elective politics before the Barbados Labour Party's October annual conference. In a media release last evening, he said what was being widely circulated yesterday about him resigning before the end of this year is fake news. Mr. Hinkson added that just last week, he met with Sports Minister Charles Griffith in Weston to have a mini sports facility constructed somewhere along the coast in his constituency. Other areas he says he's working on are road repairs and drainage. The St James North MP added that from next Thursday, his constituency will be commencing town hall meetings and looks forward to wide participation by the Barbadian public, both at home and in the diaspora. He is also having his Paris Speaks on the 28th of this month with Prime Minister Mia Amor-Montley. Consumers across CARICOM are still feeling the pinch from telecommunications roaming charges. This despite an agreement signed earlier this year with CARICOM and 2 of the Caribbean's telecommunications providers, Digicel and Cable and Wireless. The St. George's Declaration on Roaming is aimed at reducing intra-CARICOM roaming charges. During Owen Arthur's Distinguished Lecture Series, CARICOM Secretary General Dr. Carla Barnett revealed some progress has been made, with the providers agreeing among themselves to reduce charges. However, she says it is proving difficult to negotiate totally eliminating the charges. In sports, Barbados Royals could find themselves in first place of the Hero Caribbean Premier League after this morning's start of the second leg in St Lucia. Royals are currently in second place behind Jamaica Talawas by mere net run rate after both teams won their 2 opening matches in St Kitts last week. and both franchises are in action today at Grosile. Royals are in the 10 a.m. fixture against rivals Trinbago Knight Riders, while the Tallawahs are in the 7 p.m. match against the hosts St Lucia Kings. CBC's Sean Green reflects on the first leg and previews the second, especially with World Cup selection spots up for grabs. It's time now for a look at today's weather. Let's see what it's going to be like on the outside. Right now, it's partly cloudy, 27.2 degrees Celsius, but it feels like 32. The humidity stands at 84% and the barometric pressure is 1013.5 millibars. The winds are from the south-southeast at 15 kilometers per hour. The tide's low tide will be at 7:35 a.m. and another low tide at 7:26 p.m. High tide will be at 2:20 p.m. The seas are calm to smooth in open water with swells ranging from 0.5 to 1 meters and steady. The forecast for today, cloudy with breaks of sunshine, a few brief scattered light to moderate showers, and a very slight chance of isolated thunderstorms. Tonight is expected to be cloudy with clear periods with the occasional brief scattered light showers. Here's now a look at our international cities. That's today's morning report. Our next newscast will be Newsday. It will begin at noon, followed by our World at 1 via our radio network of stations. It's time now for Morning Barbados.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning. Good morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, Barbados. Good morning. Good morning to you. Good morning. Morning, Barbados. Good morning. Wake up, wake up, wake up. Morning to you.
Hi there, good morning to you indeed. Good morning everyone. Welcome. Today is a wonderful Wednesday, September the 7th, 2022. I am Pearson Bowen. Is it really September the 7th today? Yes, it is. Time is ticking so quickly. But nonetheless, we say good morning to you. Welcome indeed from wherever you are. Thank you for joining us on our streams on YouTube, Facebook. Thank you there for interacting too. Now, coming up this morning, you'll get to meet a young man who goes by the artist name Cal P. Who is he? Why is he here? We'll introduce you to him in just a little bit. Building hope through action. That's the theme of an organization is looking to help you really manage those thoughts on suicide. And they're having an upcoming forum where you can now share, young people in particular share. As we do know, we're hearing so much more about the incidences of suicide on the island. And so we'll talk to you a little bit more about that today. Alternatives to hysterectomy for heavy menstrual bleeding will take the focus when Dr. John Barker joins us. He has those alternatives, and we'll talk to him a little bit more about that as well. When we talk HR with HerMap today, we're talking compensation. Is it all that the employee wants, or are we really going to go into Maslow's hierarchy of theory of hierarchy of needs? We'll talk to them about that, HerMap indeed. Inflation, that big word in the news today. Sagicor has a plan. They'll share that plan with how they can help their members, anyone who is in some way insured by Sagicor, to manage inflation for the future. Is self-care selfish? We say no. Well, the PCOS Awareness Month is on, and we'll talk to you more about what the plans are for that celebration. But let's introduce you this morning, firstly, to the brothers Charles. Yes, it's not music we're talking about. Even though they are musical, they're hugely creative. Let me say good morning today to Sergio, Alexi, and Nikolai Charles. They're known as Santrio Creative. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Hi, morning.
Morning.
Right, no, good to have each of you indeed. Brothers, I wonder how it is working as brothers together in one business. Is there a challenge? Are you guys getting along? Or when you don't get along, who resolves the problem?
We get along pretty good. Everybody's good.
A lot of this comes from your very creative maternal grandparents, I know. And so here it is now. You formed the Santrio Creative. What is it that you do? Let's start with you, Sergio. What is it that you do as Santrio Creative?
Morning again, I'm Pearson. Santrio Creative is a one-stop multimedia business. So we do graphics, we do videography, we do photography, we do printing, we do t-shirt printing as well, design. So anything when it comes to the arts or advertising, you can, come to Santrio Creative as a one-stop shop. So my younger brother, Alexei, he is a photographer and videographer. Nikolai, he's into t-shirt printing, signage, murals as well. And myself, I'm into graphic design, video direction, a bit of photography as well.
You could have each individually gone off and branched off into your own areas, but who was it that had the idea to say, look, listen, let's come together. Let's pool our resources and let's see how we can have one collective. Whose idea was it and who started the ball rolling?
Well, I guess Nikolai could speak about that because that was his main
Yeah, that was kind of, one of my main focuses, to have all of us come together and seeing that we are all artists, brothers, related by blood. I think it would have been, a real powerful move for us to come together and, bring all of our resources together and offer it to Barbados and the Caribbean diaspora. And
so you, Alexi, here it is. You are you the youngest? I think you are.
Yes, I am.
So there you are, the little brother. Little brother in the trio right away. And so you were saying, I want to be in it too, because I'm also really good at videography and the like. And so working with your two older brothers, talk to me a little bit about some of the interesting challenges and also some of the interesting moments that occur working as a trio.
Well, in terms of the challenges, per se, it would be me liking one particular thing or liking one particular style for myself in terms of how I may do something. And then my brother saying, well, maybe you should try it this way, or maybe you should do it over, or look at it in a different light. But that's all good in terms of being able to have constructive criticism, in terms of being able to better your craft. So that would be one of the positives in terms of us working together as a team, being able to bounce ideas off of each other, and being able to get the finished product coming out in the end that may be desirable to the client or be desirable to yourself if you're doing something personally.
Nikolai, the decision to do this, you must have looked, because as starting a business, you have to look around and see whether there is a need in the first place. What do you see when you look at the landscape in Barbados and the need for the particular services that you offer?
Yeah, I think we are in a very good position in Barbados in terms of creativity, in terms of the landscape in Barbados. Yes, branding is needed for various things. Artists need branding, businesses need branding. And right now there's a kind of like a boom in terms of entrepreneurship. And I think this is where Santrio Creative could come in and really lend a helping hand to people who, needs to get their business over there and what's not.
And so, Sergio, where can we find, so we get a sense of what it is that Santrio Creative offers, where can we find your work so we can see it? And then what are the big plans for the future?
Okay, so you can find Santrio Creative on Instagram at Santrio_246. Santrio Creative _246, sorry. The plans for the future, we are actually looking to do an exhibition in November this year around Independence. We want to just, have everybody come together in the business and show the public what we're capable of. As Nikolai said, we are 3 brothers, and it's very rare to have, these 3 family members and 3 males that are all talented in the same area. And we really want to come together to, show people what Santrio has to offer. Because we believe in the arts and believe in pushing arts in Barbados. We want it to be something that young people can see as a viable career, so that people don't just see it as a hobby. These people like to paint, or these people like to do graphics, or these people like to do photography, but we want them to be able to see, there's a ways of making money, is a way of communicating, is a way of marketing and advertising. And I think it's really going to be a good opportunity for people to see that art is great, just like any other career.
Your parents must be so hugely proud of you, Denise and Gabriel, the Charles boys, and sure they're watching at the moment and beaming brightly. So Santrio Creative, look out for the exhibition coming up in November. Remember, you can go to find them on Instagram, Santrio Creative _246. See the work for yourself, reserve them for some business as well. They've done the mural, you'll see right there, just by near to the roundabout in 6 roads. And so the boys have come together and they are forging forward with brilliant work that they're doing. I want to thank each of you for joining us this morning, Sergio, Nikolai, and Alexei. I wish you all the best with your creative going forward, and we can't wait to see what else your creative talents take you and to share with all of us. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. Much luck going forward.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome indeed. The brothers Charles, I call them Santrio Creative. We're going to take a break right here. We're coming back in just a moment.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
19 minutes now to go to 7 o'clock. Dr. Rashida Daisley is the president of the Barbados Association of Endometriosis and PCOS. They're having the PCOS Awareness Month in the month of September. She joins me now as we take a look at their suite of activities. Good morning to you.
Hi, good morning, Pearson. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Over the last few years, we've been hearing a lot about endometriosis. And so I think people are getting a handle now on what that means and how it's been affecting our female population. But for those who are unfamiliar still with PCOS, what is that and how does it tie into endometriosis?
Okay, so both PCOS as well as endometriosis are reproductive disorders. They affect women of reproductive age up to the menopausal age, basically. PCOS is an acronym. It stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome, and it causes ladies to have a plethora of different symptoms. The most common one being irregular periods. These ladies might notice that they may go months without having a period. Sometimes they can have very heavy bleeding as well. As you can see here, the other symptoms include irregular or abnormal hair growth. So they may notice that they may have hair growth on the upper lip, on the chest, sometimes on the back as well. They can also have other symptoms of increased male hormones or testosterone levels. So things like acne, male pattern baldness. And one of the other common symptoms that I see particularly is increase in body weight or obesity as well, but it doesn't necessarily come with all patients with PCOS.
So the theme this month is prioritizing care of self, and that's because, as you say, self-care isn't selfish. I like that. I just love that phrase. Self-care isn't selfish. So how are you in the month of September going to convince me that self-care is not selfish?
Okay, so first of all, in terms of the management of PCOS, there's a large portion of it that's actually dependent on the patient. I would have mentioned just now that obesity sometimes can come along with this condition. So we often would advise these patients to take a look at their lifestyle changes. For example, things that may promote weight loss, having a lower calorie diet or more nutritious diet, I should say, and increasing exercise. Mental health is also a very big aspect of the management of PCOS. So we also advocate for these ladies to be paying close attention to their mental health. So in this month of September, as you said, that we're focusing on care and prioritizing care of self. I hope you realize that that's a play on the word or the acronym PCOS. Yes. So we have as you said, a cadre of events this month that are really going to equip ladies who are managing PCOS on their own about how to do this. So first up, next weekend, I believe, we have a session on nutrition and PCOS, where we'll be taking these ladies through how they can have healthier lifestyles, increasing their nutritious meals as well as exercise as well. Following that, we have a focus on mental health. And then I myself will be focusing on sexual and reproductive health. We're partnering with the Caribbean Coalition on Maternal and Reproductive Health. And then lastly, we're summing it all up with some fun as a dance activity on September 25th.
Indeed, so there are lots of things that are going to be happening, and you're asking all of us really to contribute to us, because at the end of the month, you're encouraging us to wear our shirts in the teal color. Why that color, and how can we get shirts?
Right, so teal is representative of PCOS. So that's the color that we use internationally to kind of advocate for ladies with PCOS. So we do have our teal shirts on sale. They're $40. So you can contact us. You can normally go on our social media pages. Our Instagram is at Endo and PCOS BB, and you'll see the link there in our bio of how you can register and purchase a shirt. And we're encouraging everyone to wear these shirts on the last day of PCOS month.
Yeah, that's the 30th of September. And I'm glad the conversation on PCOS is really going on, and only endometriosis in generally. And so you're working, I mean, it's not just Barbados that's having this conversation, is it? And how are you collaborating regionally, at least, to be able to raise that awareness and to raise that sound that together you lady folks can make a difference?
So some of our sessions are actually in partnership with some of our regional partners. I would have mentioned just now, my session on September 24th is in collaboration with the Caribbean Coalition of Maternal and Reproductive Health. We also are partnering with other partners in St Lucia, I believe, as well as in the USA. Last year, we would have partnered internationally in the USA as well. I'm really advocating at a global level for management of PCOS.
So there we have information on your screen, folks. So of course, you need to register because these are going to be online sessions, I believe, or are there going to be a hybrid of online and in person?
So the majority of the sessions are virtual. So the first one on nutrition, the second one on mental health, and the last one on sexual and reproductive health are virtual. But our dance session is actually in person. So it's going to be difficult to do a dance session online. But our dance session is on the 25th of September. It's going to be hosted by Megan Michael, who's a very talented dance instructor here in Barbados. So we're very excited for that.
And some would ask, but why? Because I suspect that by the end of the month, you want the ladies to see their beauty, to feel beautiful. And one way to express that beauty within and not be ashamed of that little thing that is to dance. It's to get involved in dancing,
Yes.
to step outside of oneself and just put one's cares aside and party. I suppose that's the thinking there, is it?
Yes, definitely. And really, it's also a model of self-care and mental health as well. Persons dancing, it really liberates them. It helps them to feel more at one with themselves. So we're really excited for this particular session.
I know folks are watching and thinking, there's so much that's going on in this month, I want to keep track of it. And most of these activities are going to be generally on the weekend. So talk to us again where this information can be found so that people, as they plan their lives, they can plan with these activities in mind this month of September.
Sure. So you can find it on our Instagram, as I said, at endo and PCOSBB.com. You can also contact me myself. Some of the payments can be made at the Barbados Family Planning Association, and that's on B Street. And if you need to access, our number is 426-2027. And you can also find us on our Facebook, Barbados Association of Endometriosis and PCOS.
This sounds really good, but folks, altogether, men included, we can wear the color teal in the shirts on September the 30th, and that's where we can lend support. While it's not our quote-unquote problem personally and physically, it is still our situation we manage because we are a part of a society and women are a part of our existence in the society. So we want to encourage everyone to lend to this particular activity, a whole month of activities, living beyond a diet. Nutrition is going to be the first session on the 11th of September. That's from 5 p.m. on Zoom. You need to register for it. Then coming up on the 18th, there is mental health, a focus there, exploring the lived experiences of persons living with PCOS and those who support them. Strategies will be offered as well to mitigate. Then on the 24th at 4 p.m., there's going to be sexual and reproductive health, hosting a community of conversations on PCOS in partnership with the Caribbean Coalition for Maternal and Reproductive Health. And then it all happens on the 25th with Let's Dance. And of course, it all ends then on the 30th of September when we wear our shirts in support. Your contribution of $40 will not only get you a snazzy t-shirt, but it will also support the continued advocacy and initiatives. So of course, you go to the page and you can sign up there, or you can contact Dr. Daisley at the Family Planning, and she can definitely get you in contact with it, get you a shirt for sure to lend your support indeed. So we want to encourage as many of you as possible to log in, register to get these insightful sessions. Please do. So Dr. Daisley, I want to thank you so very much for joining us this morning. President of the Barbados Association of Endometriosis and PCOS, Dr. Rashida Daisley. All the best with the activities in the month of September. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having us.
You're welcome. You're welcome indeed. We're taking a break again here on Morning Barbados. When we come back, we'll hear from Sagicor and about inflation.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
9 minutes now to go to 7 o'clock. Patrick Hinkson is the General Manager, Barbados and Eastern Caribbean for Sagicor General Insurance. That's because we're inviting him here because they're talking inflation, and there's a campaign on to help you who are clients of Sagicor better manage it, to laser in and focus on why you need to pay attention to what's happening in inflation. And so he's joining us now. Good morning to you, Mr. Hinkson.
Hey, good morning, Pearson. Good morning, Barbados.
Thank you for joining us. What is inflation, first of all, and why is Sagicor running this campaign now?
Well, Pearson, inflation is really that economic impact that we're seeing at the moment, with prices increasing either because of supply and demand, prices, global supply chain, whatever it is at the moment. You know, everyone is seeing the impact of prices increasing, and that's really being caused by inflation at the moment.
So why is Sagicor, that's all good for the economists? You know, you say, hey, that's for them to worry about. We worry about our pockets and so we're all challenged by this, the rising cost of living, and that's as a consequence of inflation. But how does inflation, because when we think Sagicor General Insurance, we think in insurance. So how does inflation impact on insurance, and why are you doing this now?
Well, primarily the main area for us as it relates to inflation is around home insurance, property insurance, ensuring that your property values reflect the current replacement value. So in many cases, persons would have, you know, built a house maybe 10, 20 years ago and, you know, would have insured it at the value that it cost them to construct it 20 years ago. Now, if they have to replace that home, or that home is damaged from some unfortunate catastrophe, fire, hurricane, flooding, when we actually look at the replacement cost, we're now looking at it in today's dollars. And therefore, to avoid the impact of what we call in insurance, the law of averages, you know, we're asking our clients to ensure that they get up-to-date valuations, to ensure that their properties are valued at you know, what would cost them to replace it today. So that's part of the campaign we are working on right now, to educate all the public, including our clients as well, of the importance of ensuring that their properties are valued at what it would cost to replace it today, should they ever have an unfortunate incident.
So let's be clear. So if I built my property and at the time the value was $245,000, for instance, and 3 or so years later, 10 years later, I did absolutely nothing with it because I'd had it insured at $245,000. I did nothing to upgrade it, to keep it in good order. My assumption is that should something happen to me 10 years from now, I'm getting back my $245 to start with, $1,000. You're saying no. We have to, it is treated at the day's value, and that's where insurers need to have their frequent valuations, right?
That's correct, Pearson. So if your property was valued, if you built a property a couple of years ago, 10 years ago, and it cost you $300,000, and you know the roof got destroyed, and to replace the roof today is say $100,000, but that property at today's value was say $500,000. You know, you wouldn't get back that full $100,000 to repair the roof. You would get back 2/3 of it. So that's why we are asking our clients to ensure that the properties values are up to date, and that you do increase that annually or every couple of years, depending on what you can afford, so that if you ever have that unfortunate situation, you're not underinsured, which is the term that we are using a lot now in the industry. In that case, person, you will be not insured, but you'll be underinsured in that you don't have enough coverage for the property that you have.
So the onus now is on the homeowner to sharpen their skills, to get to know better what's happening in the insurance as it relates to their property. And so frequent revaluations have to be done so that you don't find yourself in the state of underinsured. And more likely than not, more likely than not, you will be, because, as inflation rises, as time goes on as well, the value of items change. And so if you had to replace those items, then you'll find that you will be more likely than not underinsured. So what do you want your clientele to be able to do from today as part of this campaign?
I mean, the important thing for them is to, to assess the value of their property. They will have an idea of things of square footage of the property. They will get an idea of, what it costs today to build a similar home. So they can use that initially as a gauge. Secondly, they can get a valuation done by one of the real estate companies or a valuer in the island. And then they can make a determination, how much of that, they want to insure. But the idea is to understand that, your property is worth a lot more today than it did 20 years ago. Even if you did nothing to that property, just by the natural appreciation of property values, it is worth more. And then to replace it today is actually going to cost you more than what you initially built it for.
This sounds as though there's a need for that relationship with my insurance company, Sagicor, and so that we can better educate and to appreciate that these variables really have an impact on your pocket. Is this part of your campaign as well, where you're reaching out to each of your clientele to say to them, let's talk at Sagicor, let's talk about inflation, let's talk about how that affects your property value and the replacement value, let's talk about underinsurance as well. That's a serious conversation.
Yeah, it's actually a campaign we actually running across the region, so not only Barbados. So in every market that we operate in, we are educating all of our customers, and we do it in the public. So it is there for anyone who have insurance to understand the value of insurance and to ensure that they're not underinsured.
So how is the campaign being played out so that I can see it and I can interact with it, and people who may not necessarily be your clients but who think they need to hear this can be engaged with this campaign? How is it being played out?
The campaign is primarily in the media, social media, as well as print and some radio media in some markets. So if any of our clients have any questions, they have any concerns, they can reach out to us on social media. They can contact us online at sagicor-info@sagicorgeneral.com, or they can call us at 431-2800.
431-2800. I'm the old-fashioned kind of guy. 431-2800. I'll call and then we'll take it from there. 431-2800. Sagicor General Insurance, reminding you in this campaign that you need to pay attention to your status of your insurance, to know that inflation has an impact on the value of your insurance, and so you need to have that revaluation done, because you may find yourself to be underinsured should you need to replace the property, should, God forbid, something happens. So pay attention, contact Sagicor today to begin the conversation to making sure you're up to your particular value to have your insurance accordingly. 431-2800. Mr. Hinkson, thank you so much. Patrick Hinkson, General Manager of Barbados and Eastern Caribbean Sagicor General Insurance, for joining us and for again reminding us the critical need to have our property adequately valued and insured for replacement. Thank you.
Thank you, Pearson, and thank you, Barbados.
You're very welcome. We're taking a break right here, folks, and we're coming back with the news in just a moment.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
It is 7 o'clock in Barbados. Time for an update on the news. Once again, here's Wendy Burke.
Thank you, Pearson. Good morning to our viewers once again. The Barbados Union of Teachers is worried about the escalating violence in Barbados as children prepare to return to the classroom. President Rudy Lovell told Morning Report that it is extremely concerning because many schools have no security.
We note that some primary schools are without security guards, and students and teachers at these schools are exposed to various uncertainties. There have been instances reported by members and even on record in the media of violent crimes perpetrated in close proximity to schools. It is against this backdrop that we urge those in authority to be proactive and not wait until something happens to respond to this issue.
While indicating that they will be returning to the classroom despite some concerns, Mr. Lovell also asked for a better turnaround time in notifying teachers that they have been transferred to another school.
The Barbados Union of Teachers is concerned about the annual practice of teachers being transferred with as little as 1 week's notice, which in many instances does not allow them time to make adequate family arrangements, especially for their children, many of whom end up being disadvantaged due to the relocation. Once again, the BUT calls for the stipulated notice of 6 weeks to be given to facilitate a smooth relocation for all teachers. At a recently held meeting, the BUT membership indicated they are ready to return to the classroom, amidst a few concerns regarding the proposed structure outlined by the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training.
Barbados is one of 2 Caribbean countries benefiting from a multi-million-dollar coding project. Code Caribbean, which was officially launched yesterday, will be rolled out at the first form level in select secondary schools from the upcoming academic year. Speaking during the virtual launch, Education Minister Kay McConney said the initiative comes at a time when the ministry is seeking to transition to the system into one that's more geared to equipping citizens to successfully compete in a modern world.
Whether it's our cell phones or calculators or washing machines or televisions, just to name a few, they require code to function effectively. And then early introduction to code, as Barbados piloted last year within our nursery, primary, secondary, and special schools. We intend to ensure that our children are appropriately exposed at an early age. And as they develop a better understanding of their world, it opens their minds to the perceived opportunities where they can learn and contribute to homegrown solutions using programming and the skills that come with coding.
Barbados and Belize were chosen from among 7 countries in the region. It's a joint partnership between the Ministries of Education and the Inter-American Development Bank with support from Trust for the Americas, Code.org and Porticus Foundation. Well, that's it from me this morning. We'll take a break and return with more Morning Barbados.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
We are 6 minutes now after 7 o'clock as we turn our attention to talk HR with Hermab. You know, on a Wednesday morning, I love this segment. I know you do too. And so joining us this morning to talk HR and to talk compensation is Davina Lane, who is the Executive Director of the Intimate Hotels of Barbados. With her is Dr. Kathy Norville Rochester, a People Business Strategist. Good morning to you, ladies.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good to see
It's
both
good to
of
be
you.
here.
Thank you. Now, you know, there's an ad on TV, on international TV, that says, "It's my money and I want it now." Because, you know, you know this, every pay cycle, you're going to hear the feet running towards HR, "I want my money now." And so we're talking compensation. Give me a sense of what compensation is, and is it simply only the salary or wages?
Good morning, Pearson. Good morning, Barbados. When we think of compensation, persons always think about money. Yes. And that is just one aspect, okay? Compensation is both financial and non-financial. And earnings, what you get in your bank account, what you get as a check, that is just one aspect. Compensation is much more diverse. And when we think of compensation, or what I would like to say, total remuneration, or total rewards, it is what we give to a team member, and I don't really like the word employees, but what we give to a team member in exchange for their services, their skills, and their abilities that they bring to the organization, of which only money is one aspect. So there are many aspects of it, and today we're going to be looking at it broadly from two major areas: financial compensation and non-financial compensation.
The team member, since you're using that term, I'll use it too, that team member only sees one at the end of it all. At the end of the day, how does how this impacts my pocket in terms of my ability now to spend? So this conversation about compensation, whether financial or non-financial, starts where and who communicates it?
Right. So when we think of financial compensation, and Pearson, you made a very good point, is that team members only see one aspect of it because we do such a poor job of communicating what the total remuneration is. Let me give you an example. Sometimes Davina is in the hospitality sector, and sometimes we do a poor job in communicating your total remuneration in that aspect. So you have an employee that comes for an interview. Their hourly rate is $13 an hour, and they decide to turn down that position and accept a position for $14.50 per hour. But really and truly, that job in that hotel or in that restaurant may be $13 an hour plus service charge, plus tips, plus additional benefits, maybe lunch at work. And when you extrapolate that out, that is really not $13 an hour. It really and truly may be $17.50 an hour. Yes. So we need to do a better job at communicating this information at the interviewing, onboarding stage, and throughout the employees, the team members' employment. There's some organizations at the end of the year, they do something called a benefit statement that allows the team member to see what their total remuneration is. And sometimes that helps to be able to retain that employee. The key thing about compensation is it's a strategic tool for us as organizations, HR practitioners, to attract, to retain, and to engage talent in the organization to be able to perform.
So true indeed. And so Davina, from your perspective now, working in the hotel industry, and we know their tips, we see it oftentimes. Talk to me about some of those other non-financial ways in which you can compensate employees, because it works, to my mind, pretty easily within the hotel and service sector.
Thank you, Pearson. Good morning, Barbados. So you wouldn't believe it, Pearson, but actually, oftentimes, when people leave organizations, it's because of the non-financial aspects that were not shown to them. And I know a lot of times people say, oh, I leave, some people leave because they want better money, but actually they are non-financial things that you can do to show your employees that you value them. So practical examples, you can offer your employees an extra day off, or their birthday off, for example. This is a way that you can motivate your employees in a non-financial way. And we often speak to work-life balance. Well, this is an aspect of work-life balance. Another aspect of work-life balance is offering flexible work arrangements. Now, in certain sectors, this may not always be possible, but I think you still can, for those who are able to offer flexibility in work arrangements. I know many persons, many employers like to see that you're there seated and that you're knocking out the work, but at the end of the day, it's really about results. It's not so much that people are sitting down at a desk for 8 hours a day. It is about their results. So flexible work arrangements is something that you can offer them. Maybe they want to knock off a bit early to run an errand, or they want to start a little bit early, they want to work from home. Whatever you can offer in terms of flexibility that can enhance their work-life balance. Empowerment to do the job on their own, independence. These things help employees to grow. You give them a task to do, you allow them to perform it independently. So autonomy also helps to lift and boost the employee morale when they see, hey, I've been trusted to do this task and I can perform it well on my own. Providing training and development, another area where you can enhance your employees and allow them to grow. And the final one I'm going to tackle is just recognition, simple recognition. Show employees that you value them. Show employees that you care. If they do a really good job, verbally thank them, send them an email. You can even copy it to the department and say, you know, today Dr. Kathy really did a great job doing X, Y, and Z. Some people have Employee of the Month, for example. So these are all ways, you know, and you can put their picture upon the wall. People like to feel valued and appreciated. So those are just 5 examples of non-financial ways that you can do that.
You've just walked me beautifully through Maslow's theory of hierarchy of needs, you know, without even actually doing it. And while for those who might have looked at economics, basic, you know, economics, that is one of the things that's discussed. You're absolutely right. We all want self-actualization. We all want to feel important, recognized, and respected. And I remember personally, using a little bit of personal story here, transitioning from one job to another at some point in my journey, you know, I had to say to the HR, I'm not leaving because of money. You're thinking you need to throw money at me to keep me. I'm not leaving because of money. I'm actually leaving because I want to do something that stretches me a little bit more. And I felt at the time, can't you all hear that? Can't you hear it? And oftentimes we feel as organization leaders and organization that, Dr. Kathy, that we need to throw money to solve every little thing. That all that person needs is $25 more the month. And sometimes they're saying to you, I don't need the money. One, you're going to push me into a higher income tax bracket anyhow, you know. And so I would rather instead have something else that shows that you understand what it is that makes me comfortable in this space.
Yes, I want to add something to what Davina said, very importantly. Important in terms of with reference to why people exit the organization. And the top reasons why team members exit the organization has a lot to do with their relationship with their manager. And if you want to create a healthy working environment, and that's a non-financial thing, that is about how do we interact and relate with each other, and that is critical. Sometimes persons talk about stretching. Sometimes persons might like their colleagues. They might like even the work they're doing, but they just cannot get along with their manager. And persons will leave a job and take up a job that is paying less because the environment is different. They have a better relationship with that manager, or they perceive that that organization may be more conducive to what they want. And the other thing, person, you just mentioned from a non-financial perspective is meaningful work. Persons will say, I was listening to this podcast and persons talking about, I want persons to be happy at work. And I said, do persons want to be happy, or persons want meaningful work that will contribute to their happiness, right? Because we can set out to do, I remember this employee said, this organization does all these bells and whistles, but really and truly, they had a high turnover rate. right? But what persons want is a conducive environment that they feel that they can speak with their manager. They have the opportunity to offer ideas, but in addition to that, they want meaningful work. They want to be able to see how they're contributing to the organization's success. They want to be able to identify with a project or a task that they have done, and we can create that kind of environment to be able to attract, retain, and engage persons within the workforce.
I know we're talking compensation, but compensation is, as we are discovering this one, is so much more than just the dollar. There's the spirit of the person, the spirit of the organization that is also wrapped up in compensation. But oftentimes when we look at the financial end of compensation, I could hear the accountant, the financial controller saying, ding, 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 this is money, folks. And so what are some of the strategies that are, even though financial, Dr. Kathy, that that don't break the bank, don't break the business, that we can still actually do to reward people? They want the recognition that they're looking for.
Okay, and I'm glad you asked that question, Pearson, because I really want to jump in here. I want to say, for everybody's talking about the increasing inflation and persons going to the gas pump, this is impacting organizations, and I'm seeing and having this discourse and conversation with my clients, okay? So I want to call this 3 Ps, because this is not a time for employees to plan it, team members to plan it, or organizations to plan it. Companies that, what I'm seeing companies in Barbados doing, clients that I'm working with. So the first P I want to talk about is your pocket. Good. Some organizations are employing strategies to help to keep money in their team members' pockets, and that's important. How can we do this? Let me give you 2 classic examples. One, I have a client that they have a canteen on property. They knocked down, they really discounted the rent for that canteen operator with the intent that they can provide cost-effective meals for the team members and healthy meals, because if you produce healthy meals, that means persons are getting sick less often, all these diseases and things like that. So employees can go and put in an order to say, I want this type of meal, and have it prepared. For the ideas is that, you know what, if have rising cost prices, if persons are coming to work, they can get at work breakfast and lunch, and some persons can be able to get their dinner to take away. And by basically and truly making that canteen operator rent almost negligible. And that's one way of keeping money in the pocket. The second thing here is that you were just talking about Sagicor insurance. There's some organizations who have what we call in their medical plan a network facility, where you, the employee, can go to the service provider and swipe the card and not have to pay money up front. Now, one of the things that I have done is sometimes team members come and say, well, we don't have a lab on this network. You go back to the insurance company and you try to negotiate with the insurance company to get certain service providers on, because the more places that team member can swipe their card, the less upfront costs that they have to pay. So this is one way of keeping money in their pocket. So that's my first P. My second P is what I call prize. Davina just talked about employee recognition programs. One of the things I challenged a client to do, and which they did, is, when I joined them, they were talking about their Christmas party, and they don't get a lot of team members coming out, and you talked about Maslow hierarchy.
Yes.
So this is a manufacturing company with the bulk of their team members. They're basically concerned about putting food on their tables. They're not coming to the Christmas party because they're figuring, why is this money being spent on the Christmas party? So they're having this big elaborate Christmas party at some place, paying out these thousands of dollars. And I said, hang on, let's do something different. Let's find out how much money we're spending on this Christmas party, and let's take that money and divide it out and give everybody the money, because you're paying out the money one way or the other, right? And let me tell you, the staff were ecstatic, they were encouraged. So one of the things I want to say is, when we look at our employee recognition programs, let's do a retake on what kind of awards we're given, and make it something that's going to have an impact. A reward is only a reward right? So instead of giving a plaque that you might be sending $75 for, can you give that team member a voucher for a restaurant or a supermarket of their choice? Good. And I notice I said supermarket of their choice because you might want to give it to a particular supermarket, but they don't shop there, right?
Yes.
So these are, what I'm saying is less, it's not costing you anything else because you were going to spend $75 on the trophy. And instead of giving them the trophy, give them that money, have a discussion, have a dialogue with them to find out what is important for them. So we need to reevaluate the types of rewards and recognitions we're giving for our schemes. And my final P that I want to talk about is performance. At the end of the day, there are some companies of the view, and I totally ascribe to this, is that if the company does well, then we should contribute to the employee. That means the employee should participate in this performance. So at the end of the day, I just do not believe in giving a salary increase for a salary increase sake. But I believe that if the organization is doing well, the employee is performing, therefore then the employee should participate. And companies are doing that. I was talking to one HR manager from an international company, and they pay incentive totally on performance, and that is on the company's performance. They believe if the company performs and the company meets their financial targets, the company makes a profit, it's only fair that the employees who help generate that profit participate in it. And likewise, one of the things that one of my clients did this year is that at the end of their busy period, they did very well. And we agreed once we did well, we were going to give the employees, the team members, a financial reward, right? And sometimes what we have done is that we have tied that reward to their performance and the organizational performance. So let's say we do your quarterly, your annual performance appraisals, and you get a certain rating, then that determines the level of increase you get or the level of incentive. So again, the company is not paying out from a position of scarcity here. The company is paying out from a position that we have achieved our financial target, and therefore we have earned a profit, and therefore it's only fair to show our team members who help us create this profit that we value them. And one of the things that I want to end on this person is that I remember the flip side of this. Sometime back, I had a client, they did not make a profit that year. Actually, they but we pushed for a reason to give a salary increase because it was nearly 7 years that company did not have a salary increase. And the year we gave a salary increase, you'll be surprised the following year the company made a profit, right?
Just goes to show.
Because the team members were so motivated, right? In terms that they recognized that the company paid out of a position of scarcity, saying, you know what, even though we could not afford it. And that triggered something in the employees to be really engaged to help that company meet that performance threshold the next year. So these are my 3 Ps. We need to look at ways how can we help our team members keep money in this. Take a great look at our recognition programs. Are they really adding value to our team members? And finally, performance. We need to design our compensation strategies in the organization that would trigger performance and therefore help the organization achieve their financial bottom line and therefore feeding back into the employees and team members.
Everything I've heard you say and everything I've heard from both of you really says to me there's another P. People-centered. And so at the end of the day, whatever we do in terms of compensation, recognition, reward, all of those kinds of things, people are at the center of it, not the business necessarily, because as you just gave, Dr. Kathy, the example of when a business did not make profit, but yet still they put people first and they were able to reward them as well. And then look at what it did for the organization, people-centered. Thank both of you. I love these conversations where we talk HR with HERMAB. As I've always said at the end of every session, join HERMAB. There are benefits to membership. You don't have to necessarily be an HR practitioner as well. There are different levels of membership. Go to hrmab.org.bb and see how you can become a member. These 2 ladies are members and they can probably help you too when you reach out for some assistance as well. Davina Lane, who is the Executive Director with the Intimate Hotels of Barbados, and Dr. Kathy Norville Rochester, a people business strategist. Both of you, thank you for helping us navigate through compensation this morning. Thank you, ladies. Have a good day. We're going to take a break here on Morning Barbados. We're coming back in just a moment.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Oftentimes when there's heavy menstrual bleeding, one of the suggestions, one of the things that people turn to is hysterectomy. But there are alternatives. And so those alternatives we'd like to explore this morning. Joining us to help us with that is our friend, Dr. John Barker. Dr. Barker, good morning.
Hi, good morning, Pearson. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you doing?
I'm well.
That sounds very cagey, but that's all right, Doctor. That's why it's good to know you're well, indeed. So today we're looking at the alternatives to hysterectomy as a method of dealing with heavy menstrual bleeding. When we think about it, what is a hysterectomy, first of all, and why do women actually have a hysterectomy, and what are some of the alternatives?
Right. Most women in the Caribbean will have a hysterectomy for heavy menstrual bleeding due to fibroids. Sometimes the fibroids can also to give pressure symptoms, so you might have like frequency of urination when it is pressing on the bladder. But essentially what a hysterectomy is removal of the uterus. There are two types in relation to subtotal hysterectomy, which is not a regular operation as when compared to a total abdominal hysterectomy. And the total hysterectomy is whereby you remove the uterus and the cervix as well. So that's everything out, including the fallopian tubes as well.
That changes her. She feels, no doubt, a little bit different because it decreases her ability now to have children. And so for women who are postmenopausal, is this one of those conditions too that they will have to perhaps face, or hysterectomies don't really affect women who are postmenopausal?
Right. The most common indication for hysterectomy in a postmenopausal lady is if you have postmenopausal bleeding, but you find actual cause for the bleeding, which could be endometrial hyperplasia with atypia. The reason for this is that you have a 3% chance of endometrial cancer. Also, if you have complex ovarian cysts, then we would also do a hysterectomy in this subgroup of postmenopausal ladies.
All right, so let's look at these alternatives that are on offer. What are the alternatives to hysterectomy?
Right, so usually the alternatives would be we will counsel the patient if medical treatment has failed. So then it all depends on the pathology as to what is actually causing the actual problem. We have to discuss all these options in total, the risk and the benefits, and also to the recovery period. The recovery period is very important because in terms of modern women and stuff, they like to get back to their activities quicker. And what you will find is that some of these cases can be done as a day case, and then their recovery is much quicker. It must be known that there's only a few gynecologists on island that can offer most of these alternatives, and as a result, I will always implore people to get a second opinion, because sometimes the person who does all the techniques will be able to advise you a bit better in relation to what can be possible.
And so,
go ahead.
No,
right. So in relation to bleeding, depending on the cause. So as the slide there says, if you have any bleeding in relation to something in the cavity itself, then the procedure of choice would be putting the camera in and actually removing it. This can be done in office in most of the cases, or it can be done in an operating theater, and the recovery is quick in relation to a week or two. Most people will be up and about with their normal activities.
What is this hysterectomy resection, though? That's the first big word up top there, the first bullet point.
Right. Essentially, what that is that you put a camera through the vagina, and then we put it through the neck of the womb, and then we have a view of the actual endometrial cavity. So in this picture, it shows a fibroid, but it can be and a fibroid is just a benign tumor. And the way how it increases your heavy bleeding is that it increases the surface area of the lining of the womb. So as a result, instead of being like 10 out of 10, it would be like 14 out of 10. So you have like a 40% increase in the surface area, and that is what causes the heavy periods. So once we remove this now, the lining of the womb is essentially back to normal. So this will actually sort out the actual heavy menstrual bleeding. So in the picture on the left, there's a definite fibroid there, and the picture on the right is when we have removed the actual fibroid. So this is both for fibroids or for endometrial polyps.
Right. So in cases where there's heavy menstrual bleeding but no pathology, what's that about?
Right. So sometimes you can have heavy bleeding. The ultrasound scan is normal. So essentially what it is dysfunctional uterine bleeding. So essentially the hormones out of whack, and as a result you get heavy bleeding. Now, what we do in this case is endometrial ablation, and essentially what we do is destroy the lining of the womb. So it's either done by a number of techniques. The most popular is radio frequency, which is NovaSure. Sometimes we can use balloon ablation as well, which works just as good. Or sometimes we can do something called a transcervical resection of the endometrium, whereby it's the same putting the camera in, but what we do is that we use like a metal wire hooked up to some current, and essentially what we do is shave the lining of the womb. The results of this one are just as good. It's just that this technique takes a bit longer. The other two techniques, with the balloon or the NovaSure, they can be done as an outpatient. So essentially the patient comes in, they can either be sedated or sometimes some people, depending on how motivated they are, you can do it under local anesthetic. The actual procedure is about 5 to 10 minutes in terms of the actual procedure itself, or less, and then the patient is free to go home afterwards. So these cases can be done as an outpatient.
Right. So we're looking today, folks, at alternatives to hysterectomy for heavy menstrual bleeding. So if you have that problem, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a hysterectomy. You can have the endometrial ablation done. And I'm trying to, before ablation and then post ablation, I'm trying to understand the difference in color and picture.
Right. So essentially, the picture at the top, the lining of the womb is nice and pink, right? So you can get like a pink endometrium. So essentially, what we do in the ablation is to destroy the lining of the womb. So that's why the bottom picture is more like brownish or black. Black. So that shows that the lining has been effectively destroyed. So essentially what we do is we put the camera in, have a look around, make sure everything is normal, because sometimes they can have like the polyps and stuff inside before the procedure. If that is so, we would remove it. And then afterwards, what we do then after the first camera insertion is to do the ablation. Once the ablation is done, and then we put the camera back in again, and we see exactly where it's burned and stuff. So at least we know that a good result, and then we come back out. So it's like a combination of the two techniques, whereby we destroy the lining, have a look first, destroy it, and then have another look again just to make sure that everything is fine.
I want you to talk to us a little bit about that alternative known as the embolization. What is that about?
Right, uterine artery embolization or uterine fibroid embolization, essentially it is a more conservative technique. And essentially what that does is it blocks off the blood supply to the fibroids and stuff. And it does it on two ends. Once we block off the blood supply, the fibroids shrink by up to 30-40%. It's more effective the smaller the fibroids are, because the larger the fibroids, you don't really get as good a result. But if the fibroids are smaller, essentially what this does is shrink the fibroids, decrease the bleeding, and your recovery is quick. So sometimes you might have to spend a night overnight in hospital afterwards. It's not as common in relation to when compared to the hysteroscopic techniques, but it is available, and it should be offered to people patients, if they are not keen on getting a hysterectomy. And I must add, it all depends on the indication. So for argument's sake, if you have massive fibroids and stuff, then these techniques would not suit you. But as I said, you have to have a discussion with your health practitioner in relation to what would be the best option for you in relation to practicing patient-centered care.
And there you go. That's a good point at which to end. You can have that discussion with your medical practitioner and you can seek those alternatives. Dr. Barker, thank you as always for joining in and exploring with us the world of medicine and the alternatives that exist as well. Thank you, my friend. See you next time.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Have a good day.
You're welcome. You do too. Dr. John Barker with us today, looking at those alternatives to hysterectomy for heavy menstrual bleeding. Ladies, we recommend it to you. We'll take a break right here. We're coming back in just a moment.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
We turn our attention now on Morning Barbados to the theme of Building Hope Through Action. It's a virtual panel discussion on suicide prevention. It's a subject I know a number of you shudder at wanting to discuss, but we have to face it and deal with it. And so joining us this morning to talk a little bit more about this is David Johnson, who is the founder and president of Let's Unpack It. And with him is Stephanie Whiteman, a youth advocate for healthy Caribbean youth. Good morning to both of you.
Morning, person.
Good morning.
David, why did you form Let's Unpack It?
Well, Let's Unpack It was founded back in January 2020 rather, to be a safe space for young people to speak up about mental health. Now our mission is to empower Caribbean youth to make mental health their reality. Live the reality for all of them. And so we recognize that mental health was one of those issues that traditionally we don't speak about. And so Caribbean youth did not really have an avenue at which to speak up about their mental health challenges. And so when we speak to preventing serious mental health challenges, mental illness, and certainly preventing suicide, we first need to have these levels of conversations. And that's what Let's Unpack It is all about.
I know it's an uncomfortable conversation for some people to have, but it is what's happening. As some people choose lots of methods to deal with their mental health, one of which is suicide. And so from a youth advocate's point of view, Stephanie, what are some of the realities that you hear about and that you know that young people are faced with?
Hi, thank you so much for bringing that up. I think as a youth, as a young person living in the Caribbean, some of the problems that we have been facing is that, there's high rates of depression. We're facing, especially as the COVID-19 pandemic, there are higher rates of anxiety that youth are facing. There are increased stresses, there's increasing cost of living, all of which are passed on to youth as well. So I think that's some of the problems that we are facing as young persons living in the Caribbean, and that may contribute to the higher rates of suicide that we are now seeing, especially in Barbados as well.
What's the reality in the Caribbean from your perspective, Stephanie? Barbados we know for sure, but what else is happening across the region, and how serious a subject truly is it?
It is absolutely a serious subject. So in the Caribbean, we know that Guyana and Suriname has some of the highest rates of suicide within the world, not just within the Caribbean. We know that in Trinidad and Tobago, we also have some high rates of suicide as well, and even globally, like taken back from just the Caribbean and the global perspective, mental health issues, not just suicide, has been getting a lot of spotlight lately. And actually, mental health has been added as the fifth major NCD by the World Health Organization as part of the new 5x5 approach. So that's even showing like how important mental health issues is at a global perspective, in addition to us here in the Caribbean. And just bringing it to highlight as well is that this week is actually the Global Week of Action of NCDs, and the fact that mental health is added in to that Global Week of Action, and that where the theme for it is invest to protect, and to invest and to protect against mental health, invest to protect against other NCDs. It just really shows the importance of mental health conditions, especially suicide and suicide awareness and suicide prevention as well.
You know, David, in unpacking it, men generally don't want to talk a lot. We'll just take the action. But in unpacking it, you want the conversation to be robust. You want people to be open, frank, and honest, to be able to tackle what is going on there. So how are you going to do that? How are you going to create that safe space for men in particular to feel vulnerable enough to want to talk?
The reality is, Pearson, I think the reason why we are not okay with talking about suicide, talking about mental health, is because fundamentally we don't understand it. And so we need to get there first. And so what we've been doing over the past 2 years is really building up the momentum, certainly in the online space. And I feel as though young people in particular, which, by the way, suicide is the fourth leading cause of death amongst young people aged 15 to 29. And of course, in that category, we see mostly men. And so what we've been doing over these last 2 years is really having these conversations online where young people are more relaxed and more open. But moving towards the conversation that we're having this Saturday, inviting panelists drawn from around the Caribbean mental health space. Again, this conversation is online, and we're hoping that young men, young people in general will join us to have conversations both on Zoom and YouTube, but also on Twitter. And I think this is just the beginning. Obviously, conversation without follow-up action is non-consequential. And so we need to have mental health policy, comprehensive national mental health policy across the region. And so what we'll be doing is taking all the feedback that we get from this panel discussion, putting it into a paper or some document, and presenting it to the government after.
I know, Stephanie, then that's where perhaps you also help, because as an advocate, it is knocking on doors, beating paths, meeting people to effect the change. Are you comfortable that the ears are opening wide enough now to hear those calls?
I'm definitely certain that the ears are listening. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because actually, as Healthy Caribbean Coalition and Healthy Caribbean Youth, we are actually working on a mental health call to action where we are coming to government, and we're going to go to policy makers and decision makers to highlight the issues and the wants and needs that youth need for mental health and to protect their mental health. We've actually had consultations with youth and youth organizations over the past year from as far as Aruba to St. Kitts and Nevis and Antigua, all the way down to Trinidad, consulting about what of their mental health challenges within the Caribbean, what do they need to see their governments do to help improve mental health conditions and mental health services within their country's context. And we've actually consolidated all of those suggestions, all of those recommendations, all of the needs, all of the wants from a variety of Caribbean youth organizations and developmental agencies across the Caribbean into a concise document, this call to action that will actually be launching officially on World Mental Health Day, which is on October 10th. So leading up, following this panel discussion, where it's just one step along our journey of advocacy for mental health services within the Caribbean.
And so David, go ahead.
We're taking.
Right. So, David, on Saturday, there's going to be this coming together of minds, building hope through action. The action is you are not alone, and so come together, because there are other people like you and there are other people who want to help you as well. So talk to me about how people can engage with the panel discussion and who will be on that panel.
Right, so let's start with the last question, Pearson. Our panelists are drawn from across the Caribbean mental health space. In the first instance, we have Mr. Jonash Tosel, who is a very active youth advocate in Barbados. We also have Dr. Chanel Joseph, who is joining us from Antigua. She's a consultant doctor in psychiatry and internal medicine. We have Mr. Christopher Laurie, who is an independent researcher here in Barbados. We have Ms. Sarah Stennett, who is the manager of the CASA Barbados Mental Health Crisis Hotline. And finally, but no means by the least, Ms. Brenda Roach, who is a registered counseling psychologist in Barbados. And so what we've attempted to do is to bring together people from diverse backgrounds. We have representation from all corners, including youth, including research, including professionals in the mental health space. And so what we really want is for young people, middle-aged people, and older people alike to join this conversation, because suicide is not just something that's related to young people, it is related to all of us. The reality is that more than 700,000 people a year die by suicide globally. And if that is not a wake-up call for us, I don't know what is. And so what we're inviting people to do is to join us on Zoom. You can find that link by going to our Instagram page or our Twitter page. You can hit the link in our bio to find that Zoom link. You can also join us on YouTube on the Let's Unpack It Co YouTube page. That's Let's Unpack It with a CO at the end. And you can also join the conversation live on Twitter. We have 3 hashtags going. The hashtags are WSPD2022, hashtag LUIHCY panel, and hashtag hope through action. And so we're going to have a very interactive conversation involving all audience members, and we're going to split the conversation into a 1-hour panel discussion followed by a 30-minute Q&A where audience members can send in their live questions.
This is really good, really good, and very timely indeed. And I want to commend both of you for the energy that you're putting behind this. And I really hope that many young people, people of any age really, but particularly young people, let's have the conversation. Let's build hope through action. Let's turn it around, because it's possible to turn around. And so this panel of experts will be able to engage with you on tools and techniques to be able to move your way back from the edge, and so begin to see life from a broader perspective as well. So David Johnson, founder and president of Let's Unpack It, and you, Stephanie Whiteman, the youth advocate for the Healthy Caribbean Youth. Thank you both for joining us this morning to inspire us in the ways that you have. And I really do hope that many people do come by on Saturday. It starts at what time, by the way?
1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. AST.
God, what is AST? We Barbados time.
Barbados time, British time.
Indeed. So that's the time it all starts. 1 o'clock, folks. That's where we will be online, whether on YouTube or Zoom, and you engage on Twitter as well. Engage. Thanks to both of you. Best of luck going forward. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Pearson.
You're welcome. We're taking a break here. We're coming back in a moment.
Morning. Good morning. Good morning to you. Morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.
Reason I'm coming home. Yo, I never let you go. It's a love like Tuesday on the road. Girl, wind up your waist 'cause you're beautiful. Yeah, you're the energy in my soul. I love woman in the West Indies. Brown and sweet. Tropical gal, them know I'm good for we. Can't help it. I love woman in the West Indies. Pretty brown and sweet. Tropical gal, them know I'm good for we. Yeah. And hey, you got me, and I love when you call me darling. Always, wherever you go, I'll go there. You got me, and I love when you call me darling. Always, wherever you go.
That's Cal P. That's the music and the production of Cal P. But he joins us now. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Barbados. Good morning, sir. How are you?
I'm well, thank you for asking. Now, the name, first of all, why that name? And for anyone who doesn't have a clue as to what your real name is, what is it?
So, Cal P is actually my last name.
Mm-hmm. And what's your given name?
And my given name is Christian.
Okay. So Christian Calpe, so you go with the artist name is your last name. So your last name is Calpe and there it is. Now, what is Calpe's overall mission? What is it that you're seeking to do through your creative arts?
So for me, music is my overall passion. It's something I've done since the age of 6 years old. So it's just in my blood. And what's very important to me is spreading positivity through music. You know, I take that as a responsibility, which is why most of my songs, I try to have some sort of hopeful message behind it, which is something I draw from a challenging time in my life. And that's my main goal, I'd say, through music.
What's been the reception thus far?
The reception has been great because I think making music that has hope in it, just like what you guys were speaking about earlier, it gives the opportunity to motivate people, to inspire people to do what they want to do in their lives, you know, whatever their goals and their dreams might be. And I think that music is such a powerful tool that is something that, again, I take a lot of responsibility in doing, because people have been very grateful, you know, that, that we have, that energy into it.
And I'm so glad you're talking about that now, given how society is changing, where we're seeing some negative elements rising, and we're also seeing those negative elements pouring out in some of the music that some people are creating as well. Here it is, you're standing apart, and you're saying, no, hold on, we can still have the same enjoyment with positive lyrics as well. And so how has that truly been in terms of acceptance, you know, because people are saying, you know, in the kind of genre which you perform, you must be doing this other kind of lyrics. You can't be saying those soft lyrics as they would want to tease. What's been the acceptance generally, and what are the comments that you hear, and then how do you respond?
That's actually a great question. You know, the thing is, I feel as though sometimes things take time to latch on, and because we live in especially when it comes to youth, right? The youth wants to fit in. That's our biggest thing, especially in the Caribbean. And I resonate with that because I remember going to school and just following the crowd because whatever the crowd did was cool to me, you know? So sometimes it takes growing up and experiences that now take you outside of the box and make you realize, what actually is important, the perspective. You get what I mean? So a lot of people do accept it. Everybody doesn't accept it. I do see the rise in the rate of quite negative music, and I think that everybody has a choice as to what energy they decide to put out into the world, but we have to understand that there's a consequence that comes with that. So I think the more we have these type of conversations and the more people realize the importance of positive music, and not only music but positive content in general, is the closer we would get to having other people spread the same sort of message. And don't get me wrong, I've been seeing a lot of young artists doing the same thing, as in having very, very positive messages come out of their music, using music as a form of therapy as well. Because for creatives in the Caribbean, that's our outlet. You know, mental health is a new topic in the Caribbean, especially for men. So this is an opportunity for us to now ease the conversation and speak about things that challenge us on day-to-days, you know?
Yes. I'm motivated by you because you've also moved to the point of forming a platform called Island Wave that provides an opportunity for other creators like yourself from the Caribbean to be able to take their work forward. How has that been, and what's been the uptick as a consequence of your offer?
So Island Wave is, like you say, a platform bringing opportunities for not only people in Trinidad, but just the islands in general, the islands across the board. And the reason for this is because of the lack of opportunities. So in 2019, I was part of South by Southwest, which is a festival in Texas that happens. And it's an industry festival, right? Now, typically, an artist from the Caribbean who doesn't do soca as their main genre, because that's the challenge for myself usually, is that I don't actually fit into the carnival molds. Even though I've done it for my entire life, I've done calypso since the age of 6, but it's not necessarily what I wanted to do. So Island Wave was now trying to bridge that gap to bring those opportunities to Caribbean people, because we have immense talent in the Caribbean, immense. We are a region that is just so full of it, and again, across the board. But without the right tools, without the labels support, without the PR, the knowledge and marketing, how are we able to compete? So myself and my co-founder, we decided to challenge this and platforms like Spotify, like South by Southwest, in terms of little things like having Caribbean people be able to identify with the genres that they actually do and not have to click reggae. Because I've done a lot of school tours in Ireland, I've done a lot of school tours in Scotland, a lot of places, and when you ask questions and you say, okay, do you know where Trinidad and Tobago is? You hear things like, what part of Africa is it in?
Yes.
You hear things like, what part of Jamaica is Trinidad in? Or, or is the Caribbean in Jamaica? And it just shows that the world needs a little bit more education as to what the Caribbean stands for, the genres that are coming out of the Caribbean, and the differences within the islands, because we're also unique. But we get classed into one box, right?
Yes, you're quite right on that score. Now you're here, you're doing some production work, you're filming for a new single soon to be released. You want to tease us with any news that we can look out for?
Yeah. Sure. So actually, I just flew back to Trinidad. So I'm in Trinidad now, which I'm kind of sad about, because I love Barbados so much. One of my favorite islands. But yeah, I was working with a crazy talented team over in Barbados. Mosey Daniel, Daniel Boyce, Demario Hines, and we're working on a song called Breathe. And Breathe is about anxiety. It's about being able to face the anxiety that we all face on a daily basis and learn to breathe through it, to find the energy to believe, because I think that belief system is honestly everything. When you have that group of friends, or whatever the system might be, the people who surround you, that environment of persons that will push you beyond a challenging moment, that is sometimes the night and day difference that will make you continue within the challenge. Because at the end of the day, we can't expect greatness to come from just an easy journey. We have to be challenged, but it's going to be challenging. So we have to understand understand the tools to take us to that next part in our life, and that's what Breathe is about. So I can't wait for you guys to hear it.
Oh no, we can't wait at all to breathe with you indeed too. So for those who are watching to this morning, who are now discovering you for the very first time, but who want to sample, get a sense of your work, where can we go download, where can we go and listen to your music?
Right, so Nation, I am Kalpee, that's Kalpee, across all platforms. So you go type that in anywhere you feel like, and you'll find all of the music there. I wanna push you to listen to a song called Wherever You Are, featuring Jimmy October, because I think that's one of my most positive songs out of an extremely challenging time in my life. I actually got in an accident back in 2019 that almost took my life, and that song was inspired by that, telling us that wherever you are in life, everything will get better. So, blessings.
Blessings indeed. Wherever You Are, a song by Kalpee. Let's find it. And I wish we had more time to talk your story. I would want to challenge my producer so we could talk your story, because you seem to me to be a very deep person who has so much to share. And from that depth, many can benefit as well. So thank you for joining us this morning, Kalpee. Much love and much respect going forward. And I hope much success also with your next offering, Breathe, which is soon to be released, folks. He's doing the work here in Barbados, and we can't wait to hear the outcome or see the outcome ourselves. Thank you so much for joining us. All the best.
Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you guys. Have a great day.
You too. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, that's it for today, everybody. Thank you too for joining us. My producer has been Nadia Foster, my technical director, Ruel Ford, sound, Michael Sobers, and master controller, good friend, Tamisha Green. I'm Pearson Boyne. For each of them, to all of you, we thank you. We do look forward to seeing you again tomorrow, if it be God's will. Until then, take care and bye-bye.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Barbados, get up. Good morning.